Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Rabil Stock Research. So for those of you who don't know, I spend a lot of time going through individual stocks. I call it my bottom-up review, looking at going by sector, but going through the individual symbols. Basically anything that is above 300 million in market cap and above, I go through every single stock in the sector. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today is when I did the technology review, something kind of stuck out that I thought was really interesting because we know that's really been the strongest area. But inside of it, we're starting to see some movement inside. So a little bit of rotation, a little bit of changes. We've had some areas that have been correcting that are starting to turn up and other areas that are just starting to correct. So I thought it was worth just kind of going through and highlighting something that I think looks intriguing from that standpoint. I also am going to look at all the sectors and show kind of what's taking place there. I do want to take a quick look at Bitcoin. So I'm going to run through all that, go through some symbols, but I'm going to start with a lesson, and I want to talk about something that I think can be really helpful to anyone who's looking for either a reversal pattern or likes to play counter trend. I think I can use this one basic rule that will help them eliminate a lot of mistakes. All right, let's get going. Okay, so I've got a daily chart of Apple up, and I'm showing the period in 2023 where it was just trending to the upside. You can see this move. You can see almost the parallel nature to the daily lines that lasted quite a while. That's pretty rare. But I also want to point out a couple things. So what I see a lot of guys doing is wanting to look for a reversal, look for a change in trend, try and identify a way to short this because it's gone up too far for too long. And a lot of times they're leaning on MACD divergence as it kicks in. And, eventually it might actually kick into place. But I find a lot of guys end up shorting a few times, losing, and then finally just kind of giving up. And then when it's actually ready to reverse, they're not really watching it anymore because they've taken too many losses. One of the things that I suggest you do, and I think using this one rule for me has helped a tremendous amount over the years, and I use it a lot on the weekly charts, but I just thought this was a great example in Apple on the daily. So we've got this trend in place. We've got signs where it looks like the MACD is slowing down, but look at what the ADX is doing. Not only, all right, is green, which is the strength of the buyers. This green line is showing you how strong the buyers are. Is that on top, and is it holding above 25? But we have this blue line, this ADX line, which is basically telling us a difference between the buyers and the sellers. The green line is the buyers, the red line is the seller strength, right? And so when we have this blue line above 25 through each peak, so if we go through a peak and ADX is above 25, then we know we really aren't looking to do any counter trend trading when this is showing a lot of strength. At least that's the way I do it. I'm not necessarily looking for, if we make a move to the upside like this and we get a nice reading to the upside, I'm not all that concerned about any kind of divergence or anything like that showing up. If we can make a peak above 25. Now, if you notice, this actually stayed above 25 throughout this whole period here. So while this is starting to show little signs of divergence popping in, now unless you're a trader, like if you want to play this peak here where we rally to a new high and this is showing divergence and you want to trade this back to support, I don't have a problem with that. But what I see a lot of guys doing is they're trying to short this in anticipation of a reversal in the trend. And I think that's a big mistake. And it's a huge mistake when you're playing counter to the strength of the ADX. All right. So we want to avoid this as much as possible. And I think this one rule for play, if you want to play for a reversal in the trend, as long as you're not fighting this ADX signal, I think you're going to be a lot more successful. Let's just move forward in this chart and notice what took place here. So we had a declining phase. We rally up. We come back down. We make a new low. Look at the strength. Now, this is the opposite, All right. This is where the red is on top. That means the sellers are strong. See, the red line is the one on top and above 25. So that means the sellers are strong, and that's the reason why the ADX is going up. Remember, ADX does not care which direction the market's going. If the market is strong, it's going to be moving to the upside, whether it's to the downside, if the price of the stock is moving down or whether it's moving up. So we can see it real clear here. This rally, this move to the upside is based on the buyers, okay? And this decline is based on the sellers. Well, notice what happened. We move down, and then we rally up, and then we came back down and kind of tested that area, rally up, and then we make a new low here, and it's just so blatantly obvious there's no strength in the sellers. You see how even though we make a new low here, we're not really seeing any strength in the ADX. Now we get our divergence. Do you see how we get divergence off this low? We're not making new lows with price, and now ADX is not confirming. So we can look for a reversal here to play for not just a rally, but actually looking for a reversal. So I urge you to go back and study some trends and learn this a little bit, because I think you're going to find that as long as like what we have right now, look at this move to the upside and look at what's going on with ADX. We do not want to play the short side in this stock, no matter whether this is confirming or not. You see how we're about to make a new high, and this doesn't look like it's MACD, doesn't look like it's confirming. I see a lot of guys trying to hop on this and play it for a move to the downside. And unless you're a skilled short-term trader and you're just playing for a quick move to the downside, which you're probably going to need to use a smaller time frame to trade off of, I would tend to avoid it. Don't be playing that. There's plenty of stocks that aren't showing this much strength that you can play to the short side or counter trend if you want. Look for the ones that don't have the strong ADX, and I think this one simple rule will keep you out of taking trades counter to the trend that can be pretty painful as you watch a stock immediately turn around and make a new high. All right, let's move on to some of the analysis now. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button and also subscribe. So my services can be found at rabilstockresearch.com. I'm on the services page right now, and you can see at the top we've got the advanced trend and momentum courses. I'm offering each individually for lifetime access, or you could buy the bundle and save a little bit of money that way. Also, the individual package has 2 to 3 reports each week, plus a special weekly video for that package where I give a lot of insights into what I'm seeing, as well as entry points and that type of thing. So take a look if you have an interest. Okay, let's start out with the sector charts. Again, in the ACP, you can pull up all 11 at the same time. It's just a nice little layout here. So I've got all the sectors with the 18 and the 40 simple moving averages up, along with the relative strength line. Now, one thing I want to point out for anyone who hasn't seen this setup, this squiggly line here is the relative strength line versus the S&P for each of the sectors, all right? What that means is that when it's dropping, this sector is underperforming the S&P. When it's rising, it means it's outperforming the S&P. So if we're looking for outperformance, we're looking for alpha or whatever you want to call it, we want to see the lines that are rising. Now, I actually put a 30-period moving average in this case because it's a weekly, it's a 30-week moving average, and I overlay that on the chart. This is my preferred time frame when I'm looking at relative strength. And what we're looking for is where we get above this moving average and have it start to turn in the form of a 1, 2, 3 reversal, where we break the downtrend line, get something like that. So you can see the XLB was actually getting really close to turning, and now it's dropped right back down with the recent action. Now, one of the points I want to make here is that if we look at the sector chart, obviously it's not trading very well, but if we start to dig down inside the sector, we can find industry groups that are trading pretty well. If you look at some of the silver stocks, they're actually trading really interesting. They look pretty interesting here. You can actually saw some coal stocks breaking out, some copper stocks still looking really attractive. And even some gold stocks are right in position, have the potential. But I wanted to just point this out because I am going to go through and do this with the sector, with the technology sector. But notice what's taking place. If we look at what's happening here, so this is the start of the year. We can see that on all these charts. Right here is 2024. There's only 2 sectors that are outperforming the S&P. Talk about a narrow market, right? We've got this sector here, which is outperforming. That's the communication services. And then we have the technology sector, which is outperforming. And that's probably the only one that's really performing to a significant degree. I mean, the XLC is up, but it's not really that significant. It's been pretty much flat. The XLU was trying to outperform and had been, but now has dropped back down recently. So every other sector other than technology, really, it's just so focused right now. This isn't the type of condition we really want to see if we're expecting a really healthy market environment, right? I know a lot of the guys have been talking about the breadth of the market and all that. I don't think that's a good sign to see a specific sector, one specific sector being the only one outperforming the S&P. Now, what's helping that sector is that there's some really big names associated with it. And if they're trading well, it's helping the sector out. Just like in the XLB, there's some big names in the sector that are hurting. You want to keep that in mind. One thing I will point out is the XLY has made a little bit of a turn to the upside. It might be worth taking a peek at that. Nice little breakout taking place and going through and looking at those. But what I want to do is actually look at this technology sector. And what I've done is I've got all the sectors up. Let me just show you this first. So all of them, and I've got them sorted by their scooter ranking. Now, the materials are at the bottom. Now, one thing I did want to point out that you don't necessarily want to use, like if you're trend trading, I think the scooter is a little bit too quick. All right. Now, for short-term moves and kind of what I'm trying to cover today, which is, what is really leading right now, I think this scooter can really be helpful. But I did want to just show you a few things, the way this could be used. So if I click on the sector summary and then I go to technology, sorted by the scooter ranking, I can see that the semis are still leading right now. However, I want to take a look at software. And the reason is that when I go through and look at individual symbols, I went through all the technology, as I said, and I saw a pretty nice improvement taking place in a lot of the individual symbols in the software area. So if I click on that, I can then go through and look at the individual names. And I can do it either sorted by their scooter, and you can see, some names like this APP, which is showing a lot of strength with a lot of improvement here coming back towards the 18-week. But I can also sort it by market cap. And I want to show, and at the end of the show, I am going to show a few individual symbols in the software area that really kind of caught my eye, but this is definitely one as well. Look at the way this is bouncing off support. It got near the 18-month, we formed a pinch play, and then we got this huge rally over the last 3 months, right as the MACD came down to the 0 line. All right, so just a nice little way to go through, and I can look at the individual symbols. I can see that the Oracle just broke out, Microsoft just broke out. Going through them by industry group, I think can be incredibly valuable. All right, so we want to do that. Now, what I want to do, I want to cover the IWM, and then I'm going to look at the rates, and then I'm going to go through Bitcoin, and then I'm going to look at some big stocks that I think it's worthwhile to cover. Not a lot of requests this week, so I'm just going to go through and highlight what I'm seeing. And then again, at the end, I'm going to highlight a couple interesting patterns, I think, in the software area. All right, look at the IWM. So again, my big problem here is the relative performance line. It's just, so if we're looking at that compared to the S&P, you can see it's hitting a new low. Now, it's not really that surprising based on the way things have been trading and how narrow things have been, but we need to see this, I think, need to break out through 210 with confirming evidence on a relative basis. And I think if we see that, we'll see a broadening effect. We'll see the breadth improve. I think this is a really good gauge of breadth. So we want to see that. I think that's a really key area to keep an eye on. All right, let's look at the rates, because I did want to just point out how we're hitting this support area and bouncing off on the 10-year. All right, let's just let me just show you this on the weekly chart. A lot of support down around 4. I think if we break the 4 level, I would start to get very concerned that rates are going to start dropping. All right. And it actually, if that happens, we could actually see improvement in the IWM. We could it could have an effect on that. But we just want to watch and see if we break the 4 level, then I think that we're actually seeing a material shift in what's taking place in the rates. If that stays above that level, 410, 415, it could just be in a trading range between say 420 and 480. All right, so that's kind of the key levels that I'd be watching for there. I don't think I'm expecting this to break out to the upside. I am a little bit more concerned about the potential for this to break that 4 level. All right, let's look at Bitcoin because I think this is pretty interesting. We had a MACD signal that I talk about a lot, especially when if you go through my course, I spend a lot of time on MACD, and there's some specific things about MACD that we want to be aware of. So we made a pullback here to a rising 18 above a rising 40, but the MACD overran. All right. Now, when we have strong ADX and an overrun, I'm not expecting a reversal to the downside, like a big move to the downside, because the ADX is too strong. All right. But I am expecting a test of support again. And when that happens, now I'm waiting for this to come back up through this high. Until it does, I'm sort of expecting more consolidation to take place, and it's possible that this could be a more extensive correction, and this actually, MACD actually works its way back down to the 0 line, and the ADX line drops down under 25, while these two lines come together, the 18 and the 40. If that sets up that way, this could be setting up for another pretty significant move to the upside, as long as there's not a lot of downside movement or flagrant selling. Really what we're doing is we're working off the overbought condition on the monthly chart. We just got too far away. We need a little bit of time there. All right. Let's look at something like Tesla. This has made a pretty significant move here, and I think it's worth discussing. We got our breakout play on a daily chart. All right, we had a low ADX condition, and green was above red, so we could buy the breakout on this big green bar here. That was kind of the kickoff move, all right? And we've had significant follow-through. What we want to do when we're buying breakouts is watch the follow-through. The follow-through is really intense here. We had really good volume, and I think that's a really good sign. Now, what that does for me is it spills over into the higher time frame. Remember, we're always going to start movement and momentum on a smaller time frame, and then it's going to kick in to the bigger time frame. So we're getting this big green bar causing the downtrend line break. All right, this is what we've been waiting for. We've been looking for something like this. Now we're looking for the 2 to form. We want some kind of a higher low to take place. Now, this might actually move up towards 250, 255 before we see a pullback. But I think if I'm looking for a bigger picture play, I would be the way this is setting up now that the 18-month is turning up. I think we could legitimately start looking for something more significant to the upside, but I do want to see maybe a little bit of follow through and then a pullback to follow. All right, so keep an eye on this one over the next couple weeks. If we get some kind of a retracement or just a pause, it doesn't have to pull back that much, but some kind of a pause, as long as it holds above about 210, 215, I think this is a really interesting pattern. All right. Let's look at Lilly because I did want to point this out. So look at the monthly chart. We've got this strong trend. Look at how the ADX has been above 25 since 2018. I mean, this is just an amazing move. Now, recently, we have not touched the 18-month. You see how we've just jetted away? So now we have to be more focused on the 18-week. In my view, the 18-week is actually more important on Lilly than the 18-month is. All right, this has been testing recently. So if we break the 18-week, I think the current trend is ending. All right, so right now that's in control. Now, if we jet away from the 18-week and keep going, then I would say that maybe the 18-day starts to take over, and until that line breaks, then we'd be okay, right? But right now, the weekly is in charge, and as long as we don't break away to the upside. You see how we've got this little channel to the upside? As long as we stay contained in there, I think we want to stay focused on the weekly chart on this one. All right, it's too overbought to be a buyer, but if I'm in this, I'd probably want to stick around. Again, look at the the ADX and how it's been above since early 2023, above the 25 line. Green has been above 25. Clearly, the buyers are it's a buying stampede, very strong. All right. Let's look at the two stocks in the software area that really caught my eye when I went through and looked at thousands of charts this week. First is Datadog. I love how this is sort of breaking that downtrend line that I look at with the big green bar, right? But we started down here where MACD came down to the zero line. Now, when we get these bounces off the zero line like this, you should expect follow through. And I'm just sort of looking for this to maybe pull back a little bit closer to maybe 120 or something like that. And I think this could be a really interesting two that forms. So I want to be watching that one for sure. All right. And then look at NOW. NOW, again, look at how this 18, we pulled back. We went through kind of a correction after going to a marginal new high. We pulled back to an 18, which is above the 40, formed a pinch with really strong momentum conditions on the monthly chart. And then as we dropped down and formed our ABC correction, MACD came down to the zero line and ricocheted, and we got a massive ricochet off of that level. So I think this is a really attractive pattern, and as we move into a potential consolidation pattern that lasts a little bit longer in the semis, it's very possible some of these stocks could take the baton and maybe play a little bit of a leadership role. So watch these on a pullback. I think they could be really, really interesting. Thanks for watching the show today. My research can be found at rabilstockresearch.com, and also my YouTube channel is called Invest Like a Pro. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you next time.